when I was introducing SEDA, I work with this on a daily basis, and I do. There isn't a week where I don't meet people who have been abused in one way or another, and I think I've seen literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And after a while, the story almost becomes a bit of familiar, and it is very easy to kind of lose hope when you keep hearing stories like that, when people keep telling you about what their uncles have done, and mostly women reporting about men who did things to them. And as a male, and you sit there and you wonder how you can be of assistance. I mean, do I understand? Have I been raped? So men have this struggle to talk about this. You know, when women start talking about, I suppose, abuse and 16 days of activism and feminism and all those isms, guys just want to hide. You know, it's just because we're not quite sure what we do. But it is very interesting that 65% of people who are abused in their own homes. So then we know that people who are abusing people are literally our fathers, our brothers, our sons. Who are abusing then our mothers, our sisters, our friends. So we are doing the abuse somewhere. There isn't necessarily a community where people are bred to abuse. The abuse is bred in our homes. They say that a woman is more likely to be raped in South Africa than to be educated. That every 10 minutes, 3 children are being sexually abused. So I'm not sure if those stats are true, but that's what we hear. So the story that I would generally hear when somebody comes, you know, certain people come to my mind, they stick out, some of the people that I see. I don't like talking about people, but I like talking about the issues, because you see, I must protect the people who come to see me. But as I mentioned, so the story is sort of, it's almost typical. So a person will come and say, hi, how are you? I'm well, yes, and I go through the whole thing. Have you seen a psychologist before? No, yes, okay. So how much time we have, and these are the confidential limits. We go through that story. So, and so what ails? What brings you here? I'm not sure, the person would say, I'm not sure, but they say I've got this anger. I've got an anger thing, you know, they say I've got an anger. Who says that? No, my family, the people at work, they say I've got this anger thing. What do you say? Yeah, to some degree, I think I have. So let's talk about it, you know. So tell me what happened. So then the story goes, no, what happened was when I was a little child, I used to stay at home. And when I used to stay at home, we stayed with a cousin. We stayed with an uncle. And I was a little girl. I remember we used to play with the other kids. And then the uncle would say, no, the other kids can go and play. But I had to stay behind. Okay, so you had to stay behind, and what happened? And he just took advantage of me, you know? And he took advantage of me, and how long ago was this? No, this was like 20 years ago, 15 years ago, you know? Have you told anyone about it? No, I mean, if I say, what will the family do? I don't want to break up the family. The person is the person who provides. If I tell them what will happen, I'm afraid to tell my mom. If I told my mom, she would beat me. She'd say, how do I know what happened to me? It means I was doing it. I told my mom didn't respond to me, and you know, I just kept quiet. If I go and tell them now, you know, I imagine them, it's December time, when they come together, and I say, Uncle so-and-so did this to me, what's going to happen to the family? I don't want to tell anyone. So, okay, so you hear, and then, I mean, so these people are not here, but you hear, you know, so what can we do? What is it that you want? No, what I want is that I want to be able to tell my husband that I was raped. Oh, so he doesn't know? No, he doesn't know, you know. So what's the intimacy like? No, it's just a thing. I just do it, you know, I just do it. Men want it, I just sit there. He does it, I'm not interested, you know. I get sick even when he starts touching me, you know. I make up an excuse, I feel a bit, you know, I just want to tell my husband, maybe tell my children. I don't want them to get upset, you know. I just want to tell somebody about it, you know. So what are some of the other things you're struggling with? No, I don't know. Some will say, no, but I don't know, was it rape? I'm not sure if I was raped because, well, it didn't hurt. Or So was I raped? Was I raped because it didn't hurt? Or I didn't scream. So if I didn't scream, was it rape? Or was it, what was it? What was it? So the conversation goes and we go, and then they get to a point where they kind of now, they have to deal with things like then self-forgiveness and okay, I forgive myself. Forgive yourself for what? For not talking, for thinking that it was my fault, for getting this whole story all the time, imagining that I somehow caused it. Maybe I shouldn't have been playing there, or maybe I shouldn't have worn those clothes, I mean, different men and women from different walks of life. Mostly women, of course, So that's the story, and you hear that thing over and over and over and over and over again. I have a daughter, and I start becoming paranoid. I'm like, no, my daughter will not visit any uncle. No cousin, no noise, no sleepover, no nothing. So you start developing such a thing, and men as well. I remember one particular story. One gentleman, and we know we've got a problem with drugs. So you hear the story with a guy who grew up in a house. He grew up in a house and daddy was not there. And daddy was not there, and he had to hustle, try, pursue this. You shouldn't say hustle, you should pursue. I'm pursuing. He's pursuing things, trying things, and he tries these drugs. And what happens is he gets into a habit. He can't afford it anymore. He starts stealing. When he starts stealing, he gets arrested. One gentleman told me once, I was arrested, and when I got arrested, when I was walking in the prison, I saw the people, they were fighting. And you know what they were fighting for? They were fighting for me. Imagine that. I'm walking in the prison, the people start fighting. They are fighting for me. You can imagine that. I start praying, I'm saying, God, get me out of this situation. These people are fighting for me. It means the winner is going to get me. That kind of situation. And so we talk about sexual abuse, but we know many other people are abused in different ways. Other people are abused in the sense that they're not necessarily sexually abused, but you have somebody who grew up difficult. They used to beat them up, or they shouted at you. You have this mom or this dad who's just mean, who tells you that you are useless, that you are ugly, that you're stupid, that you're... And this abuse is just pummeling your mind. And the mind is one of the most powerful things in the universe. And if you just want to destroy people, you just ruin this thing in the head. So many people have been told that you're useless and you'll never amount to anything. And they believe that. And this is going to translate into their schoolwork, their relationships, their friendships, in different environments. So people walk around with this thing in their heads. And we know we have other kinds of abuses where people say, you came back late at night, you're not going to eat. So you are neglected, you're not going to eat. If you come back after 5 or 6 or 7, you're not eating. And so you don't eat, and you develop this thing as a person that people are evil. So we know that abuse comes in different forms. You get it financially, you can get it sexually, you can get it physically, you can get it emotionally. And what abuse does, it just violates a person, it recalibrates your mind and your understanding of yourself. So we know that normally when people come in and we say abuse, what we think about is, so this trauma that you have experienced, and what has it done to you? And one of the things that it has done is that, you see, you can get abused in different ways. One of the ways is that if I come and tell you a story, I can abuse you. So watching stories, watching media, reading stories, listening to people always talking about that thing. We say that what dominates your mind is what will dominate your life. The mind is like a grass, if you can imagine, like a field, right? And every time you pass, when you pass through a field, you you create a path. And the thoughts work like that. So whatever thought is in your head, the more you go, the easier it gets to that. So if you're always like in an abusive state or negativity, that's what happens. So that's what it does. So what you hear, what you see, what you experience. So that can happen. What happens then is that people then get into a state where they become very, then you can avoid. you avoid things because, I mean, if this thing has happened to you, I mean, imagine, I don't know, I won't ask for a show of hands, you know, when you sit at forums like this and people come and they share their stories, when they share their stories, some people can relate to that. They're like, wow, I mean, that's me, you know, that's me. And so they might want to stand up and walk, but you can't. Or people come and make jokes, you know, I had somebody to say, I don't like being with my friends because when I'm with my friends, they like making jokes. Say, so-and-so got raped. Rape is like surprise sex. Yeah, rape is like surprise sex, you know. And so I avoid people. So when I watch movies and people get abused, I hate that. I don't like that, you know, because it reminds, I just cry. So I avoid topics like that. So people become hyper-vigilant, you know. Hyper-vigilant is like sensitive. You have a child like myself, you have a child and somebody's holding her. You're really looking at that hand. What's that hand? How? Yeah, what are you doing, you know? So you're always looking for these things. Your eyes are like, you're very like, what's going on, you know? When a man just comes here, when people just see, you are very, very sensitive to if somebody touches your shoulder or just very, very particular in what's happening, what people say, what things, and we say our body remembers. You know, the body has senses and the body remembers, and people who abuse will also tell you, you know what, just the smell of something can trigger a memory. And so some people then also have then flashbacks, things like you're sitting and it's happening over and over and over and over again. So how then abuse recalibrates your mind. And it can also affect your mind in terms of how you concentrate. You're supposed to be working at work, but your brain is like sort of distant, you know, you're like frozen at different times. You can in fact even get frozen at a certain time period, you know. So when we walk, you know, we say, people are talking, a person is talking even if they don't say anything. So a person walks in and some people that are dressed will say at a particular age, and can, oh, this person is probably fixated or stuck at that age. I wonder what happened at that age, you know. So people go through these things, and so abuse then does that to one. It affects your mind, and you can get, and another thing that sort of affects then people is what we call it the battered woman syndrome. So the story goes, and here's the story. Yes, you're here, so how can we help you? We go through the whole thing. Why are you here? No, I'm here because she's my husband. My husband is beating me. He beats you? Yes. He checks my phone. You know, when I leave work, he makes sure what time I come back, I must be back. And you know, when he hits me, he doesn't hit me on the face, he hits me where the people can't see. And you know, if he walked in here, he's the nicest person you can ever meet. And I mean, if I had to get money for every time I had that sentence, you know, he's the nicest person you could ever see, you know. But when we get at home, he does this thing. So then what happens so what happened? How did this happen? No, when we used to date, I used to be a little bit jealous. I thought it was sexy. Yeah, I thought he liked me. I thought it was good, you know. If I was talking to somebody, say, who's that? And I thought it was nice, and I used to just kind of enjoy it, you know. But then it got a bit serious, you know, when you got married. So why don't you tell your family members? No, I can't tell them because they warned me. They said,